Welcome, everybody. This is Warren Inspire Ryan, and welcome to the Always Achieving Show. I'm excited today, guys, because we have an amazing speaker, coach, the CEO of Relationships Intensive. If you're listening to this right now, you need to listen to the whole interview because the value is going to be priceless. And I really want to just get her on straight away. So can we welcome to the show the one and only Anna Garcia. Thank you for coming on, Anna.
Woohoo, it's great to be here, Warren. Thank you for having me.
It's my blessing. You know, this show, and I only get the best of the best on this show. People that can give so much value. And
What a blessing to be here then in that case, Warren. What a blessing.
it is a blessing to have you on here. So thank you for, I know obviously you're a busy woman. So thank you for spending your time with me on this interview and just giving massive value to everyone who's listening. And today I want to talk about connection. I want to talk about, because I see you out there, you've got a huge drive, you're changing people's lives. And even from just looking at your photos, your aura, like your energy is just vibrating from your photos, from yourself, from your smile. And I want to find out, and I know people that are going to be listening or want to find out, like, was you born with that? How did you develop that? We want to find out the rituals, what you do. How did you become the person that you are right now? And I think for people at home to get to know who you are, we have to go back to the start. So if you could just give us a brief, short story on who is Anna Garcia.
Absolutely. It's funny you should say that because I'm writing my book at the moment and it's precisely going back to all of those. When you say the first question you ask is, are we born with it or is it something that we develop? The answer is yes to both. I believe every single person on the planet is born with full-blown self-expression. If you look at a baby, we're just like, we have no concern about how we're seen or how we're interpreted. But then something happens, life happens and we become constrained and we become conditioned to, to shut up, to not show up and so on and so forth. And then it becomes our own responsibility to take on whether we want to shine or not, whether we want to connect or not. We build up a lot of walls, sadly, as we go along. So in my case, go on.
I was going to say that happens with a lot of people out there that put these walls up, they're conditioned. And like what you just said right there, when you come into this world, it's full expression. You don't mind, like, it's funny, like when I see my son, he poos when he wants, he does what he wants, and he just does not care.
Absolutely. That's exactly what happens. And, and I think we all remember a moment, I remember a moment. I'm 5 years old, I'm in school, and the teacher asks a question. And at that point, everybody has their hand up, me, because we all want to answer the question. I get picked and I puff up and I'm all, proud because I'm about to give the answer and I got it wrong. And everybody points at me and goes, ha ha. And in that moment, I'll make a decision. I'm never, ever going to go first again. I am never, ever going to shine up again. I'm never going to show up. I'm going to just wait and see what happens. And then we embark on a journey of waiting to see what everybody else does first. And the pain that comes with that, and unfortunately, the way that our self-expression gets completely dampened, we become vanilla ice cream. We forget that we're strawberry cheesecake or, rum and raisins, whatever it is that we are, we forget. And we become something that, I remember wanting to be something that everybody liked. And it was exhausting, and it was painful.
I'm so sorry to cut you back. And like, where does that come from? Where does that whole need to be liked come from?
It's a spot-on question, Warren. I believe that, and this is kind of the essence of what I teach in my programs. I believe that we all have 12 universal limiting beliefs. One of them being, I'm not good enough. Another one being, I don't belong. Another one being, I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable. We don't walk around saying these things. But essentially, if you look at people's behavior, at some level, we all have that. And so where does it come from? Well, from that moment when I decided I'm never going to put my hand up again and embarrass myself, that's the moment that kind of ego is born. And it's like, it's about survival, when I'm not going to risk it anymore. And so you become someone who doesn't belong. I don't belong here. And that just becomes a pattern. And we begin to build on that muscle. And for most people, unless we don't become aware, we're not aware of it. So unless we purposely, like in this conversation, begin to explore this kind of conversation, most people usually don't get the opportunities to do that. And it actually takes real courage to kind of stop and go, hang on a minute, I need to take a look at this. How come I'm being this way? You know, what's going on? And looking at the impact that it has on our life, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, so to answer your question, a bit about me. I was born in the UK. I sound like I'm from around here, but when people look at me, I look confused. It's like, how is it that this woman looks? She sounds like she's from around here, but she doesn't look like she is. And that's because I come from Colombia. My parents are from Colombia. I was born in the UK, so I'm from an immigrant family. Grew up in quite a deprived environment. Grew up in a council flat. My parents separated when I was very young. I was 5 years old, and then I know what it is to grow up in a single parent family, and my
Yeah.
mum worked all hours, you know. As a result of her isolation from her family, she was very young when she came to this country. She developed a lot of emotional issues, mental health issues, and so she suffered with depression, and she suffered with, you know, general anxiety and things like that. And I grew up treading on eggshells, you know, never knowing when I came home from school, I never knew if I was going to find my mum alive. It was always that threat.
And did you understand, like, did you understand what depression was at that age?
Did I understand what depression? No, I didn't have a label. All I knew is I saw my mum taking a lot of pills, and in fact,
Yeah.
she would ask me, "Go and get such and such pill," and I'd come with the wrong one. No, the one with the blue top, the one with the red top.
Yeah.
um,
It's
I
No, it's correct. It's obviously me and like we've got a really good connection, and there's a lot of traits in your story and my story. But it's kind of funny because I remember as a child as well when you say about the pills was that when I used to lock myself in my bedroom when I did something naughty, I would stay in my bedroom. I remember my mum saying like just pretending to eat all the pills at once, like the antidepressant pills, and so I kind of like yeah, just that brought back memories for me, like just knowing that when you're young, I think we're so aware of what's going on. You know, my mum called them the happy pills, but like, do you remember like your mum taking these pills and it kind of like just numbing her? Like my mum kind of became different when she was on these pills. Did it?
Mm.
Remember that with your mum?
That's a really cool point. You know, I grew up with a very loving mum. She's a Latina mum, you know, one of those embarrassing mums
Yeah.
outside of school gates. Ay, mi vida, mi
I
amor.
know.
And I'm like, Mum, no, you know, you're 10, 11 now. It's like,
Yeah.
seriously, Mum, come on, secondary school next year. No. So that wasn't an issue. My issue was when, yes, for my mum, it was becoming, she would go into herself. And so I never forget one day saying, Mummy, can I go out and play? Usually it was a yes. And this time she was having one of her nervous moments. I don't know what was going on. And she was like, no. I'm like, okay, Mum, fair enough. No, that sounded like a really serious no. But can I just ask, why not? Because I said no. You know, she'd get really irritable, and
Yeah.
it became all about her world and what she was dealing with. And I remember being the beauty of it, and this is the gift that I see today, is I had to grow up really quickly. And I would look at my mom like a child. I remember looking at her, and in fact, I would sit down when she was in good, you know, in good space. I'd sit down with her, and I said, "Mom, do you realize that I think we have this the wrong way around?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
Funny, it's
relate
funny,
to that?
yeah, yeah, relate to 100%. It's like you then become the parent. Are you the oldest out of the siblings?
No, I'm a middle child.
You're
I'm an
the
only
middle child.
girl. Yeah.
You know, like yeah, I remember kind of yeah having that reverse role where you couldn't kind of have like you're always looking over your mum to see if she's all right. And
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. And you build such a sense of responsibility, like you're carrying
what
the whole world
what
on your shoulders.
what sort of impact did this have on your school life? Did it affect your school life?
In my case, I think people go one of two ways. And I think one of the things that my mum did do is she always made sure that I went to school come rain or shine. She always instilled this in her. And the Latin culture, the education was really important. So no matter what was going on at home, I had to go to school and I had to do well. So how it impacted in my case was nothing was ever good enough. So I went the other way to what many people might have gone. So for me, it was like I had to excel because there was nothing else that was going to secure my future. My parents weren't going to do that. So I felt so insecure that for me, from a very young age, I sensed that my only way out for me was going to be through my education. I knew that was my
And
journey.
what did you want? What was you aspiring to be as a child?
It's really funny, but I always had a sense that I was going to teach. But I just imagined I was going to be a teacher. I never imagined in a million years this is what I was going to do today. But my poor cousins, they'd come round to visit at the weekend, and I'd have all the Rice Krispies box, all the cereal boxes, the tissue paper, toilet paper rolls. I had everything ready, and we'd start like a little Blue Peter session. Like, right, guys, this is what we're going to do today. And they used to roll their eyes.
I can
They
imagine
had
you
no
doing that. I
choice.
can imagine you. I can imagine you having that role.
Yes, I
Like
was very bossy boots.
when I first met you, I felt that teacher straight away. Like literally, at school, for me, teachers were like, oh, teachers didn't like teachers didn't like me because I was a handful. And so education for you was really important.
Mhm.
Would you say you had to grow up way before your time?
Way before my time,
Yeah.
like way before my time. So I remember going back to this conversation with my mum. I'm like, Mama, I know you're angry right now. I know you're upset. I know what's going on. But listen, reason with me. I'd look at her in the eyes. I'd lower my tone. So I learned the power of connection from a very young age intuitively. So I would literally start mirroring her. So I would look at her. I'd come down to her level. I was only, what, 9? And I'd sit by her side. I'd look at her in the eye and I'd start mirroring her breathing. And then I start mirroring her blinking and then her posture. I didn't
And
know I was doing this.
wow, you was doing this without seeing it anywhere else. You just that
No,
was
just
your instinct.
instinctively. I knew this is how I was going to get her on my side. So I'd look at her and say, Mama, I understand your answer is a no. I am not debating that. What I would love to know is why not? And she would just very often, she'd get so frustrated at me, but she knew that it was a lost game for her.
Mm.
There was such a level of emotional intelligence she was dealing with. She didn't know what to do with it. So she'd look at me and then eventually she'd just laugh and she'd go, you know what, honey, you ripened too quickly and fell off the tree. And that was her cop out. That was always her cop. You ripened too quickly and fell off the tree. So what she meant by that is I just grew up too quickly and she
Yeah.
didn't know how to handle me. So what she'd rather do is just look at me, blank me, and then just kind of let me get on with it. She's just like, you know what, I don't want to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So very, very young, I learned to allow my mum to be who she needed to be and who she couldn't be, and to love her regardless. So every person, I believe that no matter how painful our upbringing, I now know that she needed to be exactly that person, because today those are the skills that I need in order to connect. So when people say to me, when you ask me that question around connection, I
Mhm.
guess I guess we each are given, I believe we're each given the journey that we need precisely to develop the skills in order to move forward for our journey. I really do believe that. I believe that we are given the physicality that we need. I believe that we are born in the exact place where we need to be born in order to fulfill on our mission. And in my case, I believe I was given the perfect mother, or perhaps I chose the perfect mother for the journey that I was then to embark on.
Definitely. To have the ability, for example, it's funny for people that are listening to this as well. If you're into sales and you're in business, learning to mirror and to build up, that's all. This is all things people pay thousands of pounds for, to learn how to
Yeah,
build that rapport. But you already had it from such a young age, which straight away for me tells me it's a gift, and it's a gift for connection. And
yeah,
to be able to heal other people, to help other people, you need to be able to have that ability to connect. And there you
yeah.
were connecting from such a young age because you were a vessel and it was just running through you. And that whole scenario of maybe like the the roles reversing is that sometimes I feel like the parents birth the blessing or that guardian angel that looks after them, and you are
Yes.
that. So in your in school life, to just stick with your story a little bit more, but in your school life,
Mm,
so you growing up, so you way before your peers,
mm.
did you find it hard fitting? What's your peer group like in school? Would you hang around with people that are in the older years, the year above you, or yeah, what was your like social life in school like?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, I all I can tell you is a moment. There was a moment. There's a moment that happened, and that defined who I was going to be, and it defined my whole school year. So I'd love to share this with you if that's okay. Yeah. So basically, it's Tuesdays with Mr. Hogan. So he led the music sessions, and
That's such a
this
treat, isn't it?
Yeah, right. And he was the music teacher. And every Tuesday, I was so excited because there was always like a new little group of girls or kids that would perform something. And this particular day, I was sitting front row as I always loved to be, with my legs folded on the wooden floors, and I was staring up at the stage, anticipating this group that was about to dance. They were about to perform. There's about six girls, and there was a lead dancer. And as soon as the song came on, she froze. And in that moment, I remember looking at her, first of all, feeling embarrassed for, that cringing moment for other, when you
Did
feel
everyone like,
cringy.
did everyone laugh? At
At that moment, there was just silence in the room. Everyone was just silent. What's going on? Why is she frozen?
yeah.
And at that moment, the teacher came on, Mr. Hogan came onto the stage, kind of spoke into her ear, and nothing was happening. This girl just froze, right? And I remember feeling, first of all, like embarrassed for her. And then secondly, I remember feeling a bit annoyed. Like, hang on a minute, I was about to enjoy this, and you're robbing me from enjoying this. And I was very young, but I remember thinking that. Then in that moment, he took her off the stage. He came back on stage and he looked out to the audience and he pointed at me and said, Anna, on the stage. And I went, what? On the stage. Now, the thing you don't know about me is that I danced before I walked. So having a
Yeah.
Latino
Well,
father meant that.
yeah. You've got Colombian, you're Puerto Rican like dancing.
Right? So my dad would carry me around ever since I was a baby, just dancing, dancing. So dancing for me came very naturally. And he knew this, the music teacher knew this. So he brought me on stage. Now, here's the pivotal moment. I stood on that stage, and as I stared at these six girls behind me, they looked at me, they flared their nostrils, and they touched their teeth. Like, we've been practicing this for like weeks. Who are you to come onto our stage
Mm.
and to lead us? Because basically that's what he'd done. He says, Anna, you're leading this group. And I remember it was an old song from like the Bangles, an 80s song. And I remember looking at them petrified. So I had my back to the audience at this point, and they were, tucking their teeth, and they were insulting me and all these kind of things. And then I just turned around. And in that moment, I faced the audience, and there were all these little expectant faces with their big mouths wide open, like, is she going to save the day? And in that moment, I made a decision. I said, I can either pay attention to the six people, I'm not going to call them something else, to the six ladies behind me, or you can focus on those who want you, on those who need to hear you, on those who need to see you show up right now. And I was only about 10. And in that moment, I made a life decision. I'm not going to live by the few who are going to put me down. I am going to live for the masses that are ready to see me and to hear me and to connect with me. The level of connection that I had with that group, we started dancing. The girls behind just followed me. It was the most incredible dance, something so simple. But in that moment, I made a life decision. And so when you talk about the peers, actually, I kind of hang around with very few because I was a natural leader from a very young age. And that meant that I was going to be quite separate from most people.
Yes.
It meant that I tend to hang around with the teachers, and I was chosen for certain things
Anna,
to lead
Anna,
projects and things.
can I just stop you for 2 seconds?
Yeah,
Because this is really powerful. Like what you just shared with us is a huge problem why people don't stand in their power, why they don't
yeah,
stand in their truth. From what you just said right there, and then people are afraid to speak because of the six people that are going to judge them,
yes,
that are behind them. Knowing that you
yes,
can make that impact and connect with
yeah,
people that need to hear you,
yes,
that there is the game changing
yes.
um, experience in your life. I think people that are listening right now really write this down, take this on board because it makes a huge shift in your life. And do you remember after that moment, was that like just use expression then?
It changed me. It changed me because even the girls, even the ones behind me at the end, they were laughing and just getting on with it. They were appreciated it, right? So, but it took real courage. In that moment, I got it. I was like, oh my goodness, I can either make a difference to lots of people or allow my fears to want to entertain a few people. Now, don't get me wrong. Throughout my teenage years and throughout my adult life, it took me years to remember that lesson and to keep present to it. And every day, I believe that the challenge is always to make that choice. I either come from a space of fear or I come from a space of love. I'm either a host to love or I am a victim, a hostage to fear. Every moment. Every moment. And I think that what happened later on with life, as life hit me hard, very hard, I began to lose my self expression. And it took me years to find it again. And it was only when I began to find it again that I remembered this story. And at one point, I shared this story with my mentor and he said, wow, that was your defining moment. And that's who you really are, but you just forgotten who you were. I became a sheep and forgot that I was a lioness. Yeah,
Talk us,
so it
talk
was,
us, talk
yeah.
us through the sheep life. Talk us through that period in your life where you were thinking you were a sheep and you were doing what everybody else was doing. Talk us about that moment when you really you decided to play all out. God use me, be a vessel. Let's talk about that phase because there's a lot of people that are going to be listening to this that are at that place in their life right now where they don't have that connection with themselves. They know they have a purpose, but they don't know how to tap into it. And I think this next stage of what you're going to share is really going to help people to tap into their
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah, sure. Beautiful. So the first moment that I declared myself as an instrument, I think it was a life choice that I made, and I wasn't even aware of what I was saying. So we moved back to Colombia when I was about 12, lived there for 3 years. They were amazing years. And then at the age of 15, something in me just said, you know what, Anna, you need to come back. It was a sequence of events. But I ended up in Heathrow Airport, stood there, looked up, and I went, oh my God, what have you just done? Because I was on my own. And then I said, you know what, God, make me your instrument. And I forgot that prayer. And for the next 10, 15 years, God made me an instrument. So I went through homelessness, I went through domestic violence, I went through marriage, divorce, lost a child. By the time I was 20, I'd gone through all that kind of stuff. Now,
So when you went, so when you were homeless, when you were going through that place, I want to feel how, where were you mentally? Where were you in that place?
yeah, so I, when I was homeless, okay, I was pregnant. Okay, so I was pregnant. My auntie who I was living with looked at my partner at the time, quote unquote partner, and said, "Look, you need to find this. You need to start settling a home with this young girl." And his response was, "Well, I already have two kids. I already have to support a family. I have a lot of responsibilities." So in that moment, and I believed him, like, "Oh yeah, he's got lots of responsibilities." I didn't love myself enough to stand in the importance of actually, hang on a minute, I'm now your priority too. So that led on to eventually, he didn't find us a place. In fact, we ended up in a hostel, in somebody else's hostel. We weren't supposed to be there. I was heavily pregnant, looking after a stepchild in a place where I was hiding. I was not supposed to be there. And there was this lovely Nigerian lady cleaner who used to clean the hostel. And she just goes, Anna, what is the matter with you? You have a British passport and you need to sort yourself out. And I remember it was so much stress. I eventually ended up in hospital. I ended up losing my child for 8 months. She was born through cesarean section. I came out of there just lost, completely lost. Um, I know what it is to wake up in the morning and resent the sun coming up. I know what it is to resent the sound of birds and say, God, I don't want to live. I know what it is to fall in a depression that is so dark you just don't see the point of your existence. Now, I remember one day laying in my bed, not wanting, it was summer, and not wanting the sun to come up. It was coming up, and it was like you're digging your heels. Why me, God? Why me? And I just reached such a rock bottom point. And it's almost like I heard a voice in my ear saying, Anna, it's not why me, it's what for. Gosh, and it was such an incredible moment. Why? It's not why me, it's what for, what for, what for, what for. And it was only years later that I got to learn the what for. But when I shifted that mentality, it changed everything for me. For me, it became like, hang on a minute, Anna, why do you think you're going through all these things? And then I remembered, okay, so fast forward, I was now 20, I was in my early 20s. I was unemployed, going through a massive bout of depression. There I'm having this conversation with God. And when I asked that question, rather than why me, what for, it just became apparent to me. It just became real to me. I was like, oh my God, I need to go and serve. Oh my God, I need to go and serve. And I always heard this voice in my head saying, Anna, do you know how many people right now are waiting for you? I didn't know, or I didn't know the future that was coming, but for some bizarre reason, I had this thought in my head that came to me and said, do you know how many people right now are suffering? And because you're stuck in your own head, you're stuck in your own thing, in your why me, why me, why me, you're not reaching out to them. And in that moment, I picked up the phone and I called an old colleague of mine, an old boss who had set up his own training company. I said, you know what, use me. Use me. I'm not going to charge you. Just use me. And he said, right away. I need you right away. And I went out there and I started helping people and I started getting involved and I just became involved. And it was something you said once that I heard you say. It was so powerful. The opposite of depression is expression. And that for me was like, whoa. And that's exactly what began to change. So one, shifting the question from why me to what for. And two, the opposite of depression is expression. Where do I need to express
What did
myself? Why am I not expressing myself?
what did it do for your energy? When you made that shift from why me to what for, and then you got that answer for the what for, what did it do for your energy at that point?
Oh my goodness. Well, I tell you what, first of all, it shifted my thinking. So rather than sitting there, I wanted to get into action. Automatically, my energy just wanted to get out of bed. So I got out of bed, I picked up the phone, and I called the first person that came to mind, which is usually your intuition, God speaking. And I phoned him and said, I need you. There's always someone who needs you. And in that moment, I stepped out, I showered, I got dressed, and I was out there. And in that moment, when I was making a difference, in this case, I was making a difference to unemployed people. I was training them, I was teaching them. And it just, I got lost in that world. It was no longer about me. So I just tapped into love energy. See, when you're in that depression mode, you're in fear, you're in apathy, you're in, you're in grief. It's a very low vibration. When you shift that into what for, you're now making it about the world outside of you. So you tap into a love energy. And that is just exquisite. Because it's no longer about you, but rather you. How can I love you? How can I make a difference to you? And you cannot help but reap the rewards when you make it about everybody else. And little did I know that actually I was setting the groundwork for the career to come. Little did I know that in supporting changing those people's lives, I was going to begin to change my own. But the pain shifted.
And in that moment as well, did the fear of judgment and of what others might think of you? Because I'm guessing when you thought you were that sheep again, you lost probably the fear of judgment came back in. When you made that shift from going from why me to what for,
Mm-hmm.
did you lose the fear of being judged? Because a lot of people, yeah, because a lot of people are in that place where I've got a story, I want to help people, but they still have that element of a lot of fear that's holding them back from sharing too much.
Yeah. Okay, a couple of things. I love that question. A couple of things there. First of all, there was originally, to start off with, there was that fear. Oh my God, what are people going to, that moment standing in front of those 6 girls, for me, that moment always comes up. Every now and then it comes up. It's like, oh my God, what if? But I tell you what, there was 2 things. One, the pain of not expressing who I am way exceeds any possible judgment I've ever received throughout my career. So the pain of not expressing my message and not aligning with who I am way exceeds any pain that may have been caused through judgment of others. Because it will come. It will come for sure.
And sorry, I get really excited. Where would you associate that pain in your body? When you had that pain of holding things in, where was that pain? Where would you feel?
Yeah, for me it was like my solar plexus, so it's just on the pit of my stomach, somewhere right underneath my chest. And so, depending on what it was, it would kind of concentrate on my heart area, but mainly in my stomach area. It's that churning, it's that.
Because I know there's people that are listening right now, and they've got that pain right now because they're dying to get themselves out there. So yeah, so literally, I loved how you compared it, where that pain from within, or the pain of like judgment, and when you put it on a scale, the pain of judgment is a fracture, is a fragment to the pain that's within.
For sure. And then there's the second part, Warren, where when you really dive into it, okay, to start with, you'll always feel fear of judgment, okay? But when you really get present, I remember this conversation with myself, with God, whatever. I just remember having this conversation, right? And it went something like this. There is a group of people, of souls, who have been assigned to you. So long as you are in your own head and in your own fears, that group of people are not meeting their own needs. They're not meeting their destiny. Until you are able to reach out to these people, they will also not be able to fulfill. So the importance of oneself, of getting over our stuff and stepping into our greatness, the moment I realized it wasn't about me, like I really got that. It's not about me. There is this, I believe that every person, no matter how big or small their journey or their destiny is, I believe that every person has been assigned a group of souls, and we're meant to co-create. So you have your kind of tribe, if you like, and then I have my tribe, and then some of those tribes will combine, and I believe we each have been given assigned a group. And so long as we are not honoring that, i.e., getting through our own fears and knowing that there's a group out there waiting, I believe we're dishonoring not only ourselves, but we're dishonoring our creator. And when
And
I got that, fear left. Fear just went for good.
and it's also known as well for you that are listening at home, is that when we're born, depending on where you're born, there is a form of control and slavery, I would say. So through the school system, there's conditioning where we're conditioned to fit in, not to stand out. And so we're up against that. We're fighting that. We're fighting this program that's been programmed inside of our subconscious. That makes this fear of speaking out or standing out really kind of like, you can't do it. You have to remain. You have to keep that mask on.
Yeah, we're definitely conditioned to. I remember from a very young age hearing, don't show off. Why are you showing off for? When I was self-expressing, adults would transfer their fears.
Yeah.
So
And I don't say, or like when people say, oh, she loves herself, she does.
Yeah, who does she think she is, right? And so one of my greatest fears growing up in my teenage years, I didn't want to stand out because I was so petrified of people judging me because I was self-expressing, because I was showing off. And I got really confused. So for the longest time, I stopped showing up because I was worried about showing off. And it was only for many, many years later that I realized and I distinguished the difference between showing up and showing off. Showing off comes from a space of fear, comes from a space of ego. Showing up comes from a space of love, and it's independent of the opinion of others, right?
Yes.
Brené Brown has this beautiful mantra, and I don't know the exact words, but I adopted it and I made up my own. And it says, in the face of any kind of circumstance, when someone is contradicting you, when someone, you know that moment when you want to attack someone or you want to defend yourself, in that moment I stop and I say, hang on a minute, Anna, don't puff up, don't cower down. Just stand in your greatness.
And just to add that as well, I think which really kind of separates people that are coming from an arrogance place and a place of service and giving is the person that's coming from an arrogance place is doing it for significance, they're doing it for importance, attention, because they're lacking.
That's right.
But when your cup's overflowing, and it's actually you're giving more than what you are receiving.
Yes.
And when you come from that place, it's like it's your responsibility to be seen. Because if you're not seen, then the people that need your help can't see you.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where fearlessness comes in. Because you're just in a pure love vibration, which is what I see you do every day, independent of the opinion of others, because that's just who you are. And it's not about, once the fear leaves, and the question is, but when will the fear leave? When will the fear leave? When you stop making it about you.
When you shift the focus from yourself, and as soon as you shift the focus from yourself, you're not conscious of you making a fool of yourself, you being judged. When your focus is on the mission that you've been born to have, you have tunnel vision. So Anna, I feel like people that are listening right now, I feel like they know you. They know where you come from. You're Latino, Colombian, your story, that you're in a place where you've grown up way before your years. I'm not sure if you look much into indigo children, but like you kind of are an indigo child. This is what I feel. But and then leaving that childhood and then losing yourself in a place where you became that sheep. But you was really a lion, and you maybe I feel like with your partner as well, maybe you was in a place where you didn't know your self-worth, and you had low standards at that place in your life, and I feel like that's because you were in that place where you didn't know who you really was. Absolutely. And then you had to hit that rock bottom to get to a place where you reach out to God and just say, use me. And when you say use me, then you make that whole transition from why me to what for. And then the energy and then the flow, then everything that you are known for, you have access to, because you're showing up not for look at me, you're showing up to serve and to give in your life. And this makes perfect sense to when I first heard you speak. I was connected straight away. I was like, I'm listening from the start to the end. And not many speakers have that ability. And what I love is that you're a female and you are a powerhouse. And we live in a world where if I said to you, name me some amazing female speakers, you could probably only name them on one hand. So there's a massive space out there for women who really want to stand in their power and to use their voice. So when you were building your arsenal to become the speaker, the coach that you are right now, talk us through it. So when you were kind of like maybe a complete novice about understanding human psychology, like what was the order? What did you look into first?
That's a really good one. You know, it's funny because I wasn't even looking into anything because it found me, you know.
Mm.
Um, I remember where did it start? I mean, where did it start? I think, look, I think the root of the cradle of my career was in Hackney among the unemployed. So I came out of university, I was unemployed, I didn't know how to get into work. I ended up on a program, 18 to 24-year-olds, run by the job centre, helping people how to get into work. And I got spotted there, if you like, you know, kind of like, what are you doing here? You know, you're a psychology graduate. So I graduated in psychology, did a master's degree in occupational psychology. Education, remember, was the thing that I held on to. That was the thing that I felt was gonna you know, have me survive in life. Only it didn't. You know, I came out uni completely lost with so many more questions. I went into psychology wanting to answer my own questions, and I came out with more questions.
What,
But
so
I ended up.
you're telling me that you couldn't use your algebra in everyday life?
No, absolutely not.
Or right
Uh,
angle, like your right
oh
angle,
my
you're acute.
goodness. No, well, here's the thing. I didn't like numbers, so I studied psychology because I love people, right? Keep me away from numbers, keep
Yeah.
me away from numbers. Little did I know it was all about stats and numbers. Kill me already.
Anna,
So,
you
yeah.
saying that right is summed up my second year in business was I love people, but I hate numbers. You have to know your numbers. You have to. Like that's like
Absolutely. Absolutely comes and bites you back in the butt.
it
So
does.
I ended up on this program, 18, 24-year-olds, and then I ended up on the other side. So I ended up volunteering, and that's where my career began. And then within 4 years, I was training teams up to do the same thing. And it was all confidence building and employability. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The first thing that I learned was standing in front of a group of 30, 18 to 24-year-olds from Hackney who didn't want to be there. And
How
they'd
did
had
that
their
feel?
oh my God, petrifying, absolutely petrifying. Because back then I was in my early 20s, it was all
Yeah.
about me, right? So I remember standing in front of this group of youth, with their jeans down there and their caps there, you know, showing their underwear, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Yo, what are you gonna teach me?" Like with their nostrils, so what are you gonna teach me? Like, yeah, with their postules like completely like,
Like,
sat
teach
down
you
on
to make
almost on
money
the
or
floor.
something.
Huh?
Like you're gonna teach you to make some money or something. I remember when I first
Yeah, you know, I got my BMW parked outside. I'm wasting my time here, you know what I mean? And so
yeah.
very quickly, I had to learn to build rapport. And what I got is these were young people who were just completely misunderstood. A lot of them were completely misunderstood, and they became numbers to
Yeah.
society. And the first thing that I did was listen. I get that you're here and you feel that you have to be here. No, I want you to consider that you made a choice to be here. And they would look at me confused, like, no, I was made to be here, otherwise my benefits get stopped in it. And I'm like, no, you chose to be here because you're ready to listen to this message. And so I connect with them immediately. Like I just made a point. I that was the first thing that I learned. I learned when you say the psychology, what was the first thing that I just learned that people just they wanna know that you connect with them. They want to know that you care. Otherwise, they won't listen to anything you have to say. And they
And
really want to. Mm.
it's, you know, it's like I keep saying this. I'm like, oh my God, like if I had a twin and a female twin, Anna, because what you just explained there, right, Anna, this is
Mhm.
what I tell people when I first I went into a referral unit, right? So a
Uh,
lot of young boys that grew up on a rundown council estate. My first
mhm.
day that I came in and the teachers were saying to me, Ron, are you sure that you want to go in there and teach? And today I said, yeah, I'm cool. I'm all good.
Wow.
Went in there and they had their arms crossed with their hat low. Like, what's this about? And then the teacher, right, Anna, the teacher dropped me straight in it. The teacher said, hi, this is Warren, who's a motivational speaker, and he works with the mindset. They're telling this to 14-year-old 14-year-old kids that have been kicked out of mainstream school. They're thinking, yo, what's this about blood, man? What's this about brainwash or something? Like, what are you talking about mindset? I need to make some peas. So, like what you said, right, at the start, I went straight in there, I touched their fist, and then my rapport building with them was, I said, look, at the start, you guys are going to think I'm talking about some voodoo, poodoo stuff, but when I shared my story, though, when I shared my story and I said, you know what, my dad was never in my life, and I went deep and I spoke from a certain place, and straight away the connection was created, and they had tears. Like people that were the bad boys turned into little boys. So yeah, so you just
Wow.
saying that as well. It's very like it's
Wow.
like really to build instant connection. And
Yeah.
I'm finding can you do this with a lot of different types of groups of people?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, and then from then, I then ended up working with parents, and that was a whole other kettle of fish. And so again, it was just about relating to what was most important to them, which is who am I outside of being a parent, and having that conversation. Then I went on to work with teachers. Oh my God, that's a whole other kettle of fish, what
Yeah,
they're concerned about. And it's just like getting their world, what is the most important thing to them, and speaking
exactly.
into that, like really listening
Their
into
language.
that.
Using
Yeah,
their language. Like it's like if you're going to speak to young people, you're going to translate whatever it is you're talking about and put it into terms that they're going to use, computer games and video games and all of that sort of stuff. And it
exactly.
goes with speaking to any sort of any particular group of people. So, for example, if someone's listening to this right now, they want to be a speaker, they want to be a coach, they want to stand in their power and just to help people. What tips could you teach them about connection? How can you create instant connection? Like sometimes I think when I do these interviews, I have to play it down a bit for me so that I have to pretend to be that kind of like that viewer who doesn't know much about maybe self-development. But I want to shift that now, and I want to kind of like we can talk on a certain level where we can go deep. So I want to go deep right now. So
Hmm.
let's go back to connection. So connection for me, getting instant connection is finding out what do we have in common, what's their pain, and then mirroring their body language, like you were saying as well. So
Hmm.
obviously I said a lot of it, but someone who's listening to this right now, from a female's perspective,
Yeah,
how do you get that instant connection?
beautiful. I
Why
think
is
the
it
first, yeah. First thing, get out of your head. Get out of your head. Be where you are right there and then. I've seen a lot of people speak, and the reason why I cannot connect with them is because I can automatically see. Now, from my eyes, I can see it. Other people may not be able to see that because they may not be facilitators, but they will feel it into they unconsciously they pick it up. So
yeah?
when someone's not really there, they can sense something's up, even though it's not conscious. And so that person, that depending on the audience, they could begin to play up. So the most important thing is really be there. So for me, before I even go on a stage or before I check my intention. I
Mm,
really just have a conversation with myself, with God, and I say, God, you know what? Please let me just be a vessel. And I create an intention. What is it who do I want to be for these guys,
and what's your outcome? I think sometimes people's outcome is to deliver a really good speech and to get a standing ovation, and it's all about that. But when your outcome is that I'm going to go on that stage, and my outcome is to create space for someone to change their life.
Yes.
It's
Yes. Yes,
and
yes, yes.
when do you know when you speak on stage,
Hmm.
do you like to get in and amongst the audience? Like, do you connect to the audience before you speak to them on stage? Do you meet them when they're queuing up in the lines to come in, or yeah, what's your preparation on that side?
That's really cool. I've done both things because I've learned from different people. I've done both things. So I did the whole let me not connect, and I did the whole connecting. Here's the thing. The second one, I connecting among the crowd, connecting works as long as your intention is the right one. If
Yeah,
your intention to connect prior to an event is because of fear and it's coming from a space of please like me, it's not going to land. it can actually make things worse. However, so for example, my last event that I ran, I just happened to be by the door as they were coming in. They just caught me there. And the first person that happened to come in, I happened to know them. Hey, she gave me a hug. And you know what? Everybody after that insisted on giving me a hug on their way in. It was just so funny. And I was like, guys, honestly, this is not part of the, but hey, okay, I'll give you a hug too. Hey, I'll give you a hug too. And it was just, but I checked in with myself and they're like, where's this coming out? You know what? I'm just going to hug them up. And then when I kind of had it, I was like, guys, look, this is really not part of the protocol. I need to go on, so I'm going to let you guys come. They were like, oh, cool. But it was just so funny. But checking in with your intention. And I think this is pivotal in terms of that first question that you asked, in terms of connection. How do you check your intention? If your intention is to serve, and say, for example, if I'm doing a talk, I do a lot of staff insight days for schools, and say their intention is mindfulness, their intention is to have kind of them learning how to acquire peace, if you like, then for me, it's like my intention is that they experience peace and joy regardless of outcome. And that is such a powerful intention. It's like, and I often pray for that for myself. I just want peace and joy regardless of outcome. And it's just beautiful. Check your intention, because when your intention isn't in the right place, it doesn't matter what's coming out of your mouth and what the evolution of the audience is, they will sense it, whether it's conscious or unconscious, they will pick it up. Always check your intention.
They will smell it. I'll smell it.
Yeah.
So, intention. If people are listening right now, guys, write this down. Intention. What is the intention? And I think this works in business as well. So, for example, some people that are in business come from a scarcity place. So their intention is, please buy my product. Please buy my product. Please buy my product. And when you have that, comes scarcity, and then people don't want to be sold to. So therefore, the connection isn't created. So, but when you have that intention that I'm here to serve and I'm here to give value, straight away, do you get a lot of people in your audience or people that you just met say, Anna, I feel like I know you?
Yeah, like I've known you forever. Where have you been? Yes, for sure. And I think it's because they're just seeing themselves. When you become someone so clean, you just give people an opportunity to see their higher self, to see spirit. What I'm saying here is the less ego there is, the more spirit can come through you. Okay, the less ego there is, the more spirit can come through you. And so in the end, it's like I'm just getting myself out of the way. Just get myself out of the way. And I always say, God, what do you want to say today? Talk through me. Just talk through me. And those are the most incredible sessions, because what happens is people connect to that. So it's not their ego with another ego. See, a lot of time in events and things that I see, it's an ego with another ego. And at the feast of ego, everybody leaves hungry.
Yeah, but where does the ego come from? Why do people have that ego?
Why do we have that ego? Now that is $1 million question, right? But I believe that from a certain age we begin to build defense mechanisms, and this is just, and I believe we shouldn't demonize it either. It's just a defense mechanism. It's something that ultimately wants us to look good and avoid looking bad. That's it. It wants to survive, at any cost. And one of the biggest costs of ego is connection, because in life we'd rather be right than be happy. In life we'd rather be right and lose a friendship or lose a connection. It's crazy how many times I see people lose out on business just because they want to be right, because of pride, because of ego, when in reality, when we come from a space of just the cleaner it is. It's always going to be there. There's always going to be a degree of it. I believe that if you look at the vibration scale, once you disappear ego, you disappear. That's where you get the Jesus, the Buddhas, and all that.
When I look at the ego, I think the ego is operating from a place of getting significance, and we look for significance in different areas. But I think when you are comfortable and complete with who you are, you don't need significance from any other area. You get it from being yourself. And I feel like the ego is where people they don't know that they're complete, so they're exaggerating or making up for it in doing things to grab attention. So with going back to connection, why would you say connection is important in business? I think people need to know this, because there's a lot of people that struggle to get clients, right? They struggle to get clients and they're wondering why. And I think connection for me, I know that I can go into any industry with people and I will thrive in that industry because I love people.
Mm.
And let's talk about connection. So why is connection so important in business?
Mm. Absolutely love that, because people never buy your product or service, they buy you.
By you, they buy
Right? Do you
you,
know
they buy
how many
you.
times, Warren, it's happened to me? I've had people knock at my door, right? I had this young man the other day. He'd come out of a penitentiary or whatever, you know, it's a kind of young person's prison, whatever you call it. I can't remember the name of that, right?
Young
And
offenders.
that's it, yeah. And he comes along and he's selling this thing that I don't even know what to do with it, right? This fluffy thing I think, to dust the house. I think he sold it to me for 15 quid. I didn't care what he was selling to me. His charisma, his story, his ability to connect, I was all over it. I was like, "Do you know what? Just give me that." I didn't need it, and for years it sat in my cupboard and I never needed it. But I
How
wanted to buy of him.
how did he make you feel?
How did he, what, sorry?
How did he make you feel?
I felt special. I felt like I was the only girl in his world in that moment. I felt, he had me feel the way that a lot of people day to day don't make you feel. And that's what people are craving, or people are craving for two things: growth and connection. And in business, you have such a vital opportunity to create that with people, to give that to people in a meeting, in any encounter. But we're so concerned with our own stuff that we don't see that. So those people who have this natural ability, and when I say natural ability, it's just, they're just doing it. They're just connecting. They're not particularly interested. I've seen, certain speakers that are incredible connectors. I've seen people sign up to their programs, for example. They don't even know what they're signing up for. They don't
Yeah,
really know. They just know that whatever that person is, that way they're being, I want that. See, because you
yeah,
can build a lot of rapport with people. Rapport is great in building with people, but it doesn't sell.
no.
Where you actually sell is when people want to become like you. That's different. And I don't
How you
mean because they
feel.
want to be you, but they want to become. They want to have some of that you have, that you're carrying around. It's like, I want some of that. That's what they buy into.
Yeah, people invest only when they're emotionally connected, whatever it is that that person is offering, and how you make them feel in that moment. And it's like that connect for me. Whenever I do a talk, I make a habit of hugging as many people as I can, because that hug straight away is my vibration will run through their body, and it will straight away connect. Like, there's instant connection. Every hug that I give, I will hug, even the people that have, you get the ones that tap your back. They can tap my back, but it's a way that, like, when you can connect and you learn that art of connection,
Yeah.
straight away they are listening to you, and they're on the edge of their seats. So it's important, guys, that you have that ability to connect. But I think as well, Anna, is that some people find it hard to connect because maybe in their past they've been hurt, they've been deceived,
Mm.
they've got all of these stories done on in their head. And I think a lot of people in this world right now are in a place where they lack self-love. So
Yes.
let's talk about relationship with yourself, because I think if you have a great relationship with yourself, you become phenomenal at making relationships in other people with other people.
For sure. For
So
sure.
let's talk about the place of coming from not valuing yourself, low self-worth, feeling hopeless, to falling in love with yourself. Would you say that you're in love with yourself?
Yes, absolutely. And in the past, I would have hesitated to say that, because, like, oh no, people will think I'm vain, falling in love with myself. And it's and it's like, no, my goodness, you have no idea. I tell you what, Warren, one of the most special moments in my life was coming out of a long-term relationship, 5 years, feeling so lost, because what we do as human beings, we uproot ourselves and we hand ourselves to somebody else. Here you are, here's my heart, you take responsibility for it. And then when that person walks away, you're left empty. And a lot of people, we do that, okay? And it took me months and months of mourning and of getting through the pain and walking through the storm of it. But this time I decided I was going to do it. I wasn't going to jump into the next relationship. I was going to freaking be with me for the first time in my life. I remember I was 25 years old, and it was the most excruciating, painful experience, because funny enough, at the same time, it coincided with an auntie dying that I loved dearly, and it coincided with my family not being around, and many things like that. And I
Yeah.
faced it for 3 whole months. And it got to a point where I remember looking at myself in the mirror and finally, for the first time, seeing me. And I remember it took my breath away, and I went, because I didn't see the physicality of me. I wasn't looking at what was wrong with my face or anything. I was looking right into me, and I went, oh my God, you have been here waiting for me my whole life. That person, that inner, when you look really and you reach deep into you. And it was like this person had been waiting for me. Generally, I related to the inner child. It's like this little child had been waiting for me my whole life. And I was waiting for everybody else to come and rescue her. I needed to rescue her. And in that moment, I looked at myself and I said, I love you. Thank you. Thank you for showing up in life. Thank you for who you are. And from that moment onwards, that's why, the mirror work is so important, because it's the place where you can go and just physically look into yourself and go, right, I am here. So that falling in love with myself is a ritual that I do on a daily basis. I look at myself in the mirror, and the more connected that I become to that, I just get present to love. Just get
Again,
present to love. It's
again,
incredible.
when you say that, it's very similar to me in learning that self-love relationship with myself, because I went back to the child self. When I went back to the child self, I would go to a time when I would cry. And when you would cry as a child, where you couldn't control it. It was just
Yeah.
that cry, like a mother needs to come cry.
Mm,
And I
mm.
remember crying like that, and I'd have this visualization that I would come down to my knees, and I would see the child Warren crying like that, and I'd see the tears rolling down his eyes, and I would look him in his eyes and say, it's gonna be okay. But it took time. I had to build that relationship with that Warren to trust me. And the more
Yes.
that I did it, the more that I then finally got to hug that Warren.
Mm,
And when I hugged that Warren, I would physically hug myself. And
mm.
then from hugging myself, I then learned to trust myself and to trust that everything was going to be all right, and that I'm worthy and I'm not broken. I'm complete and I deserve the best life possible. And I make that promise to that child, Warren, and I say, the rest of your life is going to have a big purpose, and you're going to help a lot of people, and you are going to leave this world feeling empty. And that was a promise that I would make, and keep making it as a visualization, because I think when you think about loving a child self, it's so much more easier to love the child you than the person
Yes.
that you currently see right now, because of you lose that touch because of maybe things that have happened in your life. But when you go back to that child innocent self, it's just pureness. And that child is in all of us. That child is in you, dying to come out of you.
Yes. Absolutely, and it's such a powerful energy. The innocence energy is actually really high vibration energy. So whenever you want to shift your energy as well, to go back there and just remember that little child. And yes, what you explained about that kind of coming back to you, that journey, it may take however long it takes. I.e., the first time you go there, you may feel there may be such a distance between who you are today and that child, and you need to build that relationship up. And you remind me, actually, it did take me a long while to go back there to that. The first time I ever did that visualization, it was introduced to me by somebody, and I couldn't believe the amount of pain that was there, and how abandoned she felt,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
neglected she felt, because in every relationship I'd relied on someone else. So it's like I'd handed her over, and there was this big sense of betrayal, and I had to build that relationship up again with her gradually. Every day I'd go there, I had a special place, I'd go there until eventually, it's just incredible visualization. And whenever I go there, we're always somewhere different in the world. We're on a beach somewhere or in a mountain somewhere, and I just love it, because I go right there and I see her eyes and I just hold her, and in that moment, it's just, I come home. Home is always within. There's nowhere else to go, and that's the power, that's the magic of this, and that's where self-love lies. And and
yeah.
sometimes, go on.
Just want my audience, the audience that are listening right now, to digest what you just said. And please, guys, feel free to rewind that and to go through that again. Because when you go through that process, you will learn to love yourself, and you will fall deeply in love with who you are. And it's a process. So yeah, please, guys, rewind it if you have to and go back over it. Anna, we are
Yeah.
now 5 minutes past 3, and when we talk, we can flow forever. I know something that's going to excite everyone who is listening to this Always Achieving show right now. because we're going to be teaming up. You know, for me, when I team up with people, there's things that I look for. There's connection, and what is their motive? What is their purpose? And what I get from you is pureness to help to serve other people, and what you do and what your clients say about you. Like what your clients say about you is enough. Like it's like, wow, people talk highly of you because of the results that you give. So guys, people that are listening right now, if you are in that place where maybe you're struggling in your business, or maybe you've come out of a long-term relationship and you're feeling lost, you're feeling unloved, you're in a place where you feel like you're not good enough, myself and Anna are actually going to be teaming up, and we're doing a retreat. And this retreat isn't going to be in the UK. It's going to be in the beautiful island of Thailand. We're going to be in Thailand doing a retreat, because I think when it comes to change, we need to change different areas. You see some people, they go to events, they get pumped up for a couple of weeks, but their current environment at home will put them back straight into that same place, same vibration as they were before. So myself and Anna, we were just talking that if we create a retreat, a space, and it's all about connection and relationships with yourself and with other people, so that you can become complete. So we're going to be going to Thailand, a whole new environment, and the vibration alone in Thailand alone will cause transformation. So we're going to be taking 16 people to Thailand, and we're going to be traveling across the beautiful island as well. So we get to see the beautiful Thailand, the scenery, the beach. We're next to the beach as well, which is incredible. But what I love most is that with what I do, I create transformation. With what Anna does, she creates transformation. When you bring both of us together, like when we both come together and we create this transformation, lives will never be the same again. And I think sometimes we feel like, oh, do you know what? When you're in that place of I'm not feeling good enough, you feel like, oh, can I invest that in myself? Right now, guys, if you have that feeling in your stomach that we mentioned earlier about that pain of not speaking your truth, or you want to be a better parent, you want to be a better partner, then you need to invest in you first. And this is why we're creating this retreat, guys. And I'm not sure when you're going to be listening to this audio, because this could be a year from now or so. But we're going to be heading, okay, Anna, tell them the dates and when we're going to be heading.
I'm so excited about this. So from October the 9th to October the 13th, Monday to Friday, we are going to be on this retreat. It's going to be sensational. So Monday, October 9th to the Friday the 13th of October.
So as well, you're going to get to see, like, you know, you are a product as well of your environment. So you're going to get to see Anna's morning routine, my morning routine. Was like literally put you through a process, because I think I could look at someone's day-to-day plan of what they do, their daily schedule, and I can understand why they're at the current situation, where they're at the moment. I can say straight away from looking at, they wake up in the morning, they put the news on, or they do things that are causing the outcome that they're getting right now. So we're going to literally, you're going to have the routine for the whole week, from when you wake up to when you go to sleep, on building that routine so that you can bring this environment back to your home. Because we're not doing this just for like you come over there, enjoy the island, and you feel good for the week. We're doing it to change lives. We want people to stand up in their truth, to become the next Tony Robbins, and people to stand in the truth and to really make an impact in the world. I'm excited about it. How excited. Like Anna's making so much noise where she is right now.
Super excited. It's going to be absolutely life-changing. What you just said there, the opportunity to say, because so many times people say to me, Anna, how is it that, you know, what is your morning routine like? What is your evening routine? Imagine being able to live that, breathe that every day for that whole week. It's just going to be sensational. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You know, it's just incredible. You got to be there. You got to be there.
You know, I do a lot of retreats, and retreats work the best because It's the time that you spend with the people that are on the retreat, the time, and rather than just taking information in, they get to apply it, and we get to see them in their day-to-day life. And we can obviously, people can't see the picture when they're in the frame. And so when you're with two world-known coaches and speakers, massive transformation is going to happen. So if you're in a place right now, guys, we're going to be taking interviews. So as soon as you hear this, like, get in contact with myself or Anna, because we're going to be doing interviews. And just because we want the right chemistry as well. Sometimes people, okay, they want to invest in a retreat, but if they're not in that right place where they're ready to commit, they can then, like, one bad apple can spoil the rest. So we really want to get the right chemistry, the right personnel on board, people that want to make a difference, that want that transformation in their life. So if you're interested, guys, get in contact ASAP. And Anna, bringing it back to the show right now, and like, you've given so much value. It's been insane. Like, people, whenever you hear something that you really resonate with or that you really like, it's not good enough just going over it once. It's something that you go over and over and over again. There's so many audios that I listen to through Tony Robbins and Dwayne Dyer, and I listen to them, the same ones, over and over and over again. And every time I listen to it, I get something new.
Yeah. Indeed, this one's, we dropped a few gems in here, Warren. This one's to be listened to again.
It is, definitely, I know. Because, like, I think when you get two people at the same frequency that are operating from the same space, it's powerful. It's always powerful. It's like, I didn't plan this interview. I didn't have to write down questions to what to ask you. It just flowed straight away.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And we always overflow, though, don't we?
Yeah, we overflow because we believe that in abundance and giving. So, Anna, where can people find you?
Relationshipsintensive.com. Ladies, we have an event coming up on the 19th of August, Sensational Relationships Intensive. It is all about you and your relationships. So that is the website. You can also find me on Facebook, Anna Garcia, YouTube, Anna Garcia, pretty much Anna Garcia. Just look for Anna Garcia. But relationshipsintensive.com is the best place to come along. Register for complimentary event on the 19th of August or 7th of October is our next one after that. Yeah.
I've got a feeling some men are going to be wearing wigs.
But then we've also got our connection workshop, right? Our connection seminar, which is on the 26th of August. That is for men and women. It's going to be sensational. Again, you can find details for that one anywhere on either of our Facebook pages. Yeah, and we can also send that out, right, Warren?
Yeah, and one thing that I want to finish on as well is that we live in a world where people only deal with things at surface level. There are so many people that are in the self-development world who maybe have read a few books, gone to a few seminars, and they're like, yes, I'm healed. And they're in a place where they have this pattern where they have their good weeks, they have their bad week, and then they become reliant on other people, other coaches, and other events that they have to go to every single month. This is why we and Anna are creating this retreat, is because we want to go to the root cause. I think when you go to the root cause, it's good to keep going to events, but go to events because you're topping up, not because you're in a place of lack and you're like, I need it. So that just reminds me again as well, guys, is that if you want to remove the weed, you have to go to the root cause. And this is what myself and Anna are going to be doing at this retreat. Why do you keep doing that? You say you want one thing, but what is your action saying? And how can we change your actions? That's what we're going to add into this retreat. So guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for telling your friends about this audio, because I know that you're going to tell your friends because you've got so much value. Anna Garcia, thank you so much for sharing your time, your wisdom, your love. I know for a fact people are going to be watching this, listening to this, and you're going to change someone's life purely from doing this interview.
Thank you, Warren. It's been an absolute blessing to be on here. Thank you for your time and just for the listening that you brought me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you, Anna. It's been a pleasure. And see you all next time, guys, and have a fantastic time wherever you are right now. And remember, live life on your terms.